What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of news to go over this week. The first is from Mazda. So they've revealed an official teaser video for the new Mazda 3, which is going to be revealed at the LA Auto Show most likely next month. And so the teaser video just basically shows us a quick glimpse of what looks like a hatchback, and it shows very, very little, but it does seem very curvy, much like the concept that we saw, I think, last year. But all that they have to go along with those images are what they say is a new era of Mazda begins, and that's all they're saying so far. But hopefully we'll have some teasers here, over the next few weeks as well to give us a better idea of what to expect at the LA Auto Show at the end of next month. But anyway, very cool to see that. BMW has officially revealed the X7 finally, which is the biggest BMW they've ever built. They also say it has the largest grille of any BMW ever, which is definitely controversial. Anyway, this is 9 inches longer than an X5, but supposedly 3 inches shorter than a 7 Series, which I kind of find hard to believe, but definitely very, very big, and looks good, I think, other than that grille, which is just a little too tall and a little too large, especially considering the lights are so slender there in the front and in the back. And I think it actually looks very good, though, as far as, large SUVs go. Speaking of large, it has 3 rows of seating to seat either 6 or 7 people, 48.6 cubic feet of cargo space with that third row in place, and with all the seats folded down, it has 90.4 cubic feet of space. And looks a little nicer inside than even the X5 with some interesting color combos you can see, and even has some high-end options like a 1500 watt Harman Kardon stereo, heated and cooled cup holders you can see there look pretty cool, and an LED illuminated moonroof that can display various things such as it can simulate the night sky. So I'm not sure, if you have a moonroof, I mean, if you're looking through it at night, you should be able to see the night sky already. I guess they're trying to kind of be like Rolls-Royce with the Starlight headliner, but a little bit different in execution. It'll be interesting to see how that actually works and looks. Anyway, the current engines that are going to be available for it are a turbo 3-liter inline-6 in the xDrive 40i version that does 335 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque, or you can get the 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 in the xDrive 50i version, and that does 456 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. They all get an 8-speed automatic transmission and all-wheel drive. There's air springs to raise and lower the vehicle, and you can even lower it so you can help with loading things and all the different various things you can do with it. There's an available off-road package, and that'll of course lift the suspension up for better clearance. And then there's also a dynamic handling package, which includes rear wheel steering, active roll mitigation, and even uses a forward camera that looks at the road ahead and adjusts the adaptive suspension for road imperfections and corners to kind of stiffen it up if it sees a tight corner coming up, which is pretty cool. Anyway, these are going to be built in South Carolina alongside the other X models, and goes on sale in March, but you can pre-order one now. You put $1,000 down and you can, I guess, be towards the front of production and, custom configure your vehicle if you want. Prices start at $74,895 for that smaller engine version. And then if you want the V8, it's going to cost you $93,595. So basically, if it's a V8 one, it's over 100 grand most likely once you get to some of the options and stuff. So a very expensive BMW. Whenever you see these large things rolling around next year, you'll know it is most likely a very, very expensive SUV, but right in line with a lot of the competition. Navigators and stuff can get over 100 grand. So anyway, interesting to see that. Porsche has revealed the Panamera GTS and Panamera Sport Turismo GTS for 2019 here. They have the 4-liter twin-turbo V8, but it only does 453 horsepower and 457 pound-feet of torque. And a V6, the turbo V6 Panamera S already has 440, and the turbo is way higher at 550. But this is where the GTS always ends up winding up, is in the middle of the pack. It's focused on handling and bundling some options you can get on a normal Panamera S, but bundling them a little more cost effectively. I mean, even though the horsepower isn't a huge jump over the V6, it still has a 0 to 60 time of 3.9 seconds, so still very quick. It's also 0.39 inches lower than a normal Panamera, and gets the usually optional Porsche adaptive suspension management, PASM, Sport Chrono package, a Sport exhaust system, and Sport design packages. It also gets larger brakes to round out that better handling. It also gets some unique GTS seats on the inside there that you can see. And anyway, these are going to be arriving in dealers not until the later half of 2019. It's like the second half of 2019, so maybe midsummer at the very earliest. About 9 months away, unfortunately. Anyway, they're going to be starting at $129,350. Whew, man, Panameras are expensive. It's crazy. Anyway, moving on to some other Porsche news. Automotive News is reporting some stuff here. The first is the price range for the Taycan, the fully electric Porsche that's coming next year. And so they sat down, I guess Porsche's CFO sat down with a bunch of journalists and was talking about some stuff, and so that's what the next two stories here are about. But first off, as far as pricing, he revealed that it's going to be priced between the Cayenne and Panamera. So depending on where you live, that means different things. So here, that would mean it would be starting somewhere between $65,000 and $85,000. Which sounds actually really reasonable and very competitive with like the Tesla Model S. But then Automotive News is saying that, this interview was in Germany, and so in Germany, those vehicles are more expensive, and the Cayenne starts at $86,000 and the Panamera at $104,000. So we'll have to see, how that all ends up translating out here and what we end up getting as far as pricing in the States. But he also went on to say that there could be one that costs about 200,000 euros, which means you're talking about a 250 plus Taycan here, so that would be pretty crazy, but that'd be for a super high performance version. But still, I mean, even Tesla P100D or whatever isn't nearly that expensive, so that would be pricey. And we already know there's gonna be a 600 horsepower version at least, and that'll do 0 to 60 in less than 3.5 seconds. They're already saying. I don't think that's the ultra high performance version, but could be. They're planning to build 20,000 of these a year next year, and that's going to be going on sale. They didn't say when next year, but sometime next year. Could be the Geneva Motor Show. That's when they'll reveal this or something. We'll have to see. Anyway, interesting to hear that. Speaking of electric Porsches, though, at the same time they are sharing that info, Automotive News is also reporting a timeline for when to expect further electrification for Porsche. And so supposedly they plan to have 50% of sales by 2025 be pure EVs. And after the Taycan, then EV SUV is coming in 2022. Will probably be based on the next gen Macan. They didn't finalize a lot of this yet, but that's most likely when the Macan's due to get a completely new version, since the refresh is just coming out now. Although that still is a little long, 4 or 5 years for the refresh before you have a full new version. Anyway, and so it's going to share, whatever this electric SUV is, it's going to share a platform with Audi, so I guess that means it'll be like a Porsche version of the e-tron, unless there's some other platform I'm not remembering. But anyway, after that's going to be an all new next gen version of the Panamera and Cayenne that will also go electric, and those will be electrified before the sports cars are, supposedly. So those will get electric first, and then that's it. But also, you'll think, okay, well, this is just going to be an option. I can still get a gas version, which will be true for 2 to 3 years, according to the CFO here. But he says, he's quoted here saying, "We're a relatively small company, and we will not be able to afford to offer a combustion engine version in addition to pure electric models in the long term." Saying, there's going to be an overlap of 2 to 3 years after the EV versions of these vehicles are introduced before the gas versions go away. So you will be able to get the next gen versions with gas, but only for a couple of years, and that's it. So, I think it sounds like by probably 2030 or sooner, they're going to be completely EV almost. Now, they did say, as far as electrification of the sports cars goes, they would start with the Cayman and Boxster first. And those would get it first, and then the 911 would be the very last one to get electrification. But the Porsche CEO did say that the 911 could go hybrid by 2023. As far as a full EV version, maybe that will happen, by 2030 or something. We'll have to see. Maybe that will be the one that continues on with the gas engine indefinitely, or, as long as they're legally allowed to. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, some interesting stuff there. And we have SEMA coming up here in the next couple of weeks, and there's lots of custom builds that are being shown. Ford has a bunch of sponsored stuff that, custom Mustangs, but they always seem to be quickly forgotten. They very rarely show any kind of future production stuff or anything. So it's just like, oh, here's some cool show cars that end up getting parted out at some point and sold off, and so kind of irrelevant. So I'm not going to cover all the SEMA cars this year, although I will be at SEMA. I'm going to be there, and so I'll be able to cover some of this stuff, and might do a quick little video of some walkarounds of some of the stuff I find interesting. I will certainly be posting stuff on Instagram, especially especially. And so you'll definitely want to follow me there at Matt Maran Motoring if you want to stay up to date on, my SEMA adventures. But I will be there, which by the way means in 2 weeks I won't have a normal weekly update because I'll be busy running around SEMA and won't be able to do an actual sit down with the news. But I will probably still have a bullet update in 2 weeks instead on Friday to kind of give you guys. I'll be doing a road trip here this weekend. I'll be doing a couple other things with the bullet, and so I'll be talking about that in 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Next week I will still have a normal weekly update. But yeah, I just want to give you that quick little update as far as the schedule goes. But anyway, getting back to SEMA here. So Chevy has an interesting Camaro concept though that is most likely going to translate to some type of production thing. So first off, the color you see here is called Shock, and it's very appropriately named, and it's actually going to be available on 2019 Camaro. So that is a production thing they're revealing here at SEMA. But more interestingly is that this is an SS one that's pictured here, but it doesn't have the new SS front end. If you noticed, the new SSs have this weird like blacked out piece in the middle, and the Chevy badge was lower, and it was kind of weird. People hated it, and sounds like Chevy might have actually changed course based on that criticism, because this isn't the V6 bumper either. What they did was take the SS bumper and the black piece in the middle, they painted body color, and I think that greatly improves the look. Now, I'm still not in love with the way that it looks, but I think that's a whole lot easier to stomach than the current plan that they had for the SS bumper. So you can see also with this rearranged bumper, they did actually move the Chevy badge from that lower portion up to a more traditional spot in the upper grille there, which I think looks really good. And so the big question here is this actually going to be the way they do it on the production version, or is this just to gauge people's interest and then maybe do something for the 2020 model year instead and make a change then? Because I don't know if we're too late in the game to do that. I mean, all they're doing is basically painting that one part. I feel like that'd be very easy to change. But yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. According to Chevy, this is just a show vehicle and it's just for fun, but clearly they've heard people don't like that black piece in the middle there, and so it sounds like they might actually be going and changing that, which would be nice to see them actually fix something there a little bit and listen to consumer feedback, which Chevy's always really good about. Anyway, these 2019 Camaros, by the way, are going to start arriving early next year, so they should be showing up here in a couple of months. Other Chevy news though, last month they announced the 2019 Blazer pricing, and all they announced though was the starting price, which got people pretty excited. It was starting under $30,000 at $29,995, and everyone's like, wow, this is going to be really great. Ford Edge is a couple grand more, Nissan Maran is a couple grand more, and it sounds like they're undercutting it. Well done. Except Cars Direct found the order guide for the Blazer this past week, and it turns out that Chevy has actually priced it much higher than the competition once you get beyond that bare bones model. So that base one's called the Blazer L. After that, it just turns into a regular Blazer, and then there's just trim levels. So there's the Blazer 1LT, 2LT, 3LT, RS, and Premier. And with each of those stages, you have much more money included in those price tags. So there's not too many details on each individual trim, and this isn't officially put out by Chevy yet. This was just found by Cars Direct. So as a disclaimer, this could be incorrect or something, although it's very unlikely. This sounds pretty spot on considering the way GM's been pricing stuff recently. But anyway, it's a little disappointing, especially if you actually were interested in the Blazer here. First off here, the 1LT starts at $33,495, and it's still only front-wheel drive. You can't even get it with all-wheel drive, and you're already spending mid-30,000s. 2LT is the first trim that gets the V6 as standard, so if you want V6, you got to go to the 2LT, and that also allows you to add on all-wheel drive, but does not come with all-wheel drive. But those start at $34,495, only an extra $1,000 more for the 2LT, so you're basically probably getting the same equipment as the 1LT, but you get the V6 instead and the option for all-wheel drive. But all-wheel drive is a $2,700 option, which is way more than it usually is on other vehicles. So that makes the cheapest all-wheel drive V6 Blazer $37,195. And it just goes up from there. So, and because that still only gives you cloth seats and bare bones interior and stuff. Then you have to go to the 3LT to get leather. Now, they didn't actually list the pricing for the 3LT. I'm guessing maybe another $1,000 or so more. And then there's the RS version, which jumps up to $41,795. And that only has front-wheel drive still, but it does have that V6. And the RS isn't really it's a sportier looking package, but usually the RS models are just appearance packages, not any kind of performance upgrade, which is where you start getting into trouble with the competition. Because if you go for an all-wheel drive version of the RS, it's $44,695, making it $1,300 more than the new Edge ST that just came out. And there's been reviews and stuff posted in the past week or two, and those have more horsepower. They have all-wheel drive as standard, a lot more features for that money, and it actually has a sport-tuned suspension, bigger brakes, all that type of stuff to actually give you a real performance SUV instead of the RS version of the Blazer, which just looks a little meaner. So this is where the pricing starts to get a little challenging for the Blazer. So some other stuff. You can't even get the driver assistance features until you get to the RS model. So all those 1LT, 2LT, 3LT models, you can't get driver assistance stuff, at least not the more advanced stuff. So by advanced stuff, I mean you can't get adaptive cruise or forward collision warning unless you're in that RS model. And even still, it's a package that it costs $3,575. I'm guessing there's other things in that package because there's no way they're charging $3,500 for adaptive cruise control and a forward collision warning. But that still doesn't even include automatic emergency braking, though. According to this order guide, it really is mind-boggling the way they package this. So that's something, that the automatic emergency braking, I'm not in love with it personally, but I know a lot of people are. And so, for the average consumer to not have this, whenever automatic emergency braking is standard on every Ford Edge, on every Nissan Murano, they all get standard automatic emergency braking, but you can't even get it in the Blazer here, and you actually can't get it until you go to the top of the line Premier trim, and even then it's still not standard. I believe it's an option that supposedly costs $2,165 according to this order guide. By the way, that Premier trim starts at $43,895, and then that's, again, I think before all-wheel drive. I don't think it's standard on the Premier, and I'm sure there's other options you have to add on as well. So if you want that automatic emergency braking for over $2,000 and then the all-wheel drive for $2,700, you're looking at right around $49,000 before any other options for a top-of-the-line Blazer Premier. So realistically, we're gonna have Blazers over $50,000 with a V6. So it's going to be interesting to see. Now, GM has historically, especially in the past few years, they love to highly incentivize stuff, and so they kind of, I guess, make the customer think that you're getting a $50,000 Blazer, but it's 25% off or something like that, and they drastically slash the prices, and everyone thinks they're getting a great deal, when honestly that just brings it in line with the competition. So it could be that they're just doing this, to kind of make people feel like they're getting more value than they really are, I guess. So I don't know. It's just like you could even get a Traverse, the huge 3-row Traverse, for about the same money. So I really don't see, what they're going for with this Blazer, unless they're trying to market it as some type of premium thing or something. But still, it's a Chevy. They have premium brands for people that want to go for higher end stuff. Anyway, that's the pricing for the Blazer. They don't have a configurator or anything yet. Like I said, this is not officially announced by Chevy. This is just in the order guide, so we'll have to wait to get confirmation of all this stuff. So still take it with a little grain of salt, but this is very realistically, most likely going to be the prices. So anyway, mentioning Nissan, though, they have two small little but important updates for the Titan for 2019. The first here is a 7-inch touchscreen that's now standard on all Titans, and it also includes Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard. There's also a new 485-watt stereo by Panasonic and Fender that you can get that's optional on the Pro 4X models, and it's standard on the SL and Platinum trims. It gets 10 speakers in the King Cab version and 12 in the Crew Cab version. And the prices go up a very reasonable $360 to $430 depending on the trim. But it's really nice that you now get standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto standard touchscreen there, even in a bare bones truck, which is great because a lot of the other trucks still force you to not have that. So although the Ram, I think it's standard as well, but I think if you go for the Ford, you still get a crappy little screen in the middle. It doesn't even have touch or anything. But anyway, interesting to see that. For some unofficial Nissan news, Cars Direct again got their hands on an order guide, this time for the 2019 Nissan Leaf, and found details on the E-Plus version that's coming with a larger 60 kilowatt hour battery and 200 horsepower most likely. It looks like it's going to be about $5,500 more than a regular Leaf, according to the order guide here. You know, that regular Leaf, it's 40 kilowatt hour battery and 147 horsepower, so it's slower, has less range, and so for that $5,500 extra, it sounds like a pretty good upgrade, honestly. But anyway, this means that if this pricing is correct, this larger battery version of the Leaf would cost $36,385 before incentives. Now, Nissan, they still haven't produced 200,000 EVs, so they're still eligible for that $7,500 tax credit. I think they still have a little less than 100,000 vehicles left before that runs out for them, meaning that with that tax credit, it ends up being $28,885, which very nicely undercuts stuff like the Tesla Model 3, and that's pretty cool. So anyway, this should be going on sale in January, or that's rumored. This hasn't officially been announced, I think, by Nissan yet, but that's the rumor. So anyway, we'll have to wait and see, but cool to hear that. And we have a little more unofficial news. This is according to Autocar's sources, who are reporting that Jaguar internally is proposing a plan to take the entire Jaguar line to complete EV by about 2026 or 2027, which is a ways off. You know, it could be as soon as 5 to 7 years, they said, but sounds like it could be a little bit later, more like maybe 8 or 9 years. This hasn't been approved yet. This is just something they're debating internally and trying to figure out what they want to do with the Jaguar brand. But it shows the Jaguar is thinking about it, which is pretty crazy. You know, that would mean the entire range, everything from the F-Type, the XJ, which I think is the first one they're saying is going to go full EV, is the XJ, you know, full-size sedan. They do have plans to electrify everything. It's just a matter of if it's full EV or hybrid stuff. So we'll have to wait and see. They kind of, I think the thinking here is they want to get ahead of Audi and, you know, Volkswagen, all these guys who are going towards that, but, you know, won't be full EV by that point just yet. Speaking of electric cars, though, GM was spied testing a Bolt with some type of autonomous tech, but it doesn't have the usual enormous roof-mounted sensors you usually see for LiDAR and stuff like that. Instead, just having a weird new bumper that's most likely packed with sensors, but very well hidden. And it also has a weird setup of 4 shark fin antennas on the roof, which is very interesting. But we know it's autonomous because the test driver had both hands playing with his smartphone, was not looking at the road, was not touching the steering wheel at all. So hopefully it's really far along in its development. Otherwise, that guy's going to get a slap on the wrist, that's for sure. But anyway, GM has planned to debut these next year, though, in a car sharing service. I don't think they'll be selling these, you know, to customers or anything like that. But they wouldn't have any steering wheel or pedals, and they showed off this with some official pictures not too long ago. And it's pretty crazy. I mean, to not have any kind of backup controls this early on is ambitious, I guess, is a nice way to put it. I think it's rather crazy, to be perfectly honest, because again, this stuff is not that far along that you can just, you know, sit there and hope for the best. Like, you need to have some type of safety stuff. They say, you know, it'll have automatic braking and things like that, but things can still fail. Like, not having physical controls is terrifying to me. Maybe in 10 years or something, but not now. Anyway, some other cars that were spied this week, thanks to spy photographer Brian Williams. First here is BMW's in-house tuner Alpina was spied testing their new B7, which is a kind of a pumped up 7 Series. But this does show what the new regular 7 Series will also look like. Now, this has, Alpinas always have a nice understated little lower body kit thing going on. You have those multi-spoke wheels, which is a signature Alpina thing. But this also just kind of shows what the regular 7 Series will kind of look like, since we haven't seen that officially revealed yet. But it looks like it's going to get a larger grille, not quite as large as the X7, kind of a similar theme there. Some slimmer headlights, again, kind of mirroring the X7. In the back, looks like the taillights could actually look a little more like the X5 than the X7 does. But still looks like it's going to be a really nice refresh here for the 7 Series, or it could be an all-new version. I'm not totally sure. But anyway, this is scheduled supposedly to debut in March for the Alpina version. Means it will likely show up at the Geneva Motor Show as well. So all, you know, kind of around March timeframe is when we'll probably be seeing those. So anyway, cool to see that. Mercedes was spied testing a few vehicles. The first here is the sedan version of the A35. We already had the reveal of the hatchback, you know, a couple of weeks ago, but these 5 photos, you know, show us how the back end is going to look here on the sedan version, which is the version we will be getting here in the States. We are getting the A-Class for the first time, and this is what we'll be getting here. So looks similar to other AMGs, looks very good there in the back though, although it's kind of interesting how it looks like it has has single exhaust on each side instead of the quad exhaust setup that you usually see on other AMGs that are higher up. But these should be really promising. They're going to get that new 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder with 302 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, all-wheel drive, and 7-speed dual clutch. And these should be debuting in the next few months, at least for Europe. Might be a little bit of a longer wait for us here in the States. Anyway, interesting to see that spied. Also, Mercedes was spied testing the refresh versions, probably most likely 2020 model year versions of the GLC63, both in regular and coupe body styles. And so it looks good and mostly just shows us those updated headlamps that look like they'll look pretty similar to the ones on the GLE, just maybe a little more raked and a little more slim possibly, and kind of channeling the AMG GT 4-door and a couple of others like that. It's also going to get refreshed bumpers and taillights along with a few updates to the interior, which obviously we can't see from these pictures. But we're still waiting on the regular GLC refresh, and I'm guessing they're currently marketing the GLC, the current generation, as 2019 model year vehicles as well. So I'm guessing they're going to wait till the 2020 model year to refresh the GLC, even the regular version, which means we might still be waiting, at least 3 to 6 months to even see that. And so anyway, we'll have to see when this 63 version comes, but hopefully it won't be too much longer after that. Another little bit of AMG news here is that the AMG One hypercar that, they're developing is supposedly about 9 months behind schedule. And that's because the AMG engineers are actually struggling with the Formula One sourced engine that's in it. Because they're saying it's a struggle to have a stable and low enough idle to measure emissions so they can actually pass emissions. And so in F1, these engines usually idle at 5,000 RPMs, but they're going to have the RPM be 1,200 RPMs here, which is still way higher than a regular car usually is. But that supposedly is going to give them a steady enough idle to accurately measure those emissions and stuff. But it still sounds like it's a struggle because this engine revs to around 11,000 RPMs is what's been reported here. And so it's kind of crazy. They're actually, this is a real F1 motor that they're putting in this thing. And it's going to be fantastic for those lucky few that get to own one and drive one. But anyway, interesting to hear that, and I'm sure they'll be coming soon enough still. Other hypercar news, though. McLaren has teased the back end here of the Speedtail, which is the successor to the McLaren F1. It's going to have 3 seats like the F1 did, and a hybrid powertrain for at least 986 horsepower. And looks really promising so far. Very sleek there in the back. Looks like it'll definitely have some active aero going on there towards the back. And anyway, there's only 106 of these are going to be made. They're already sold out, of course, and they're going to be revealed next week on October 26th. And unfortunately, that's going to be after the weekly update is filmed and stuff. So definitely want to, again, follow me on Instagram and Twitter to stay up to date on all that kind of stuff. I'll be sharing all that there. And the last couple stories this week come from Volkswagen. The first is they've shown some concept headlights and taillights that can be used to communicate things if and when these are actually available in the future. But they're pretty cool. And there's a few other companies that are working on stuff like this. Certainly seems to be a promising technology for the future. Anyway, the headlights, they could project the path of the car to kind of signal to pedestrians or others where the car is heading, and other safety things. It could also communicate to the driver as far as road conditions and things like that. And the taillights in the back can also project the path of the vehicle, similar with the lines you see on a backup camera. But they could also show things like an alert symbol under hard braking, a battery gauge when charging, and they can also allow the customer to customize the appearance for different patterns and things like that, which is very cool and would be a little kind of futuristic, customization to vehicles that would be very much appreciated, I think, to kind of make it a little more individual. And it's a cool idea. So we'll just have to wait and see, when these become available, if they become available. And I think that would be pretty cool to have on future Volkswagens and Audis and stuff like that. The last Volkswagen news though this week is that the Chinese version of the all-new Passat was revealed, and this is likely going to look very similar to the version we'll get in the United States. Now, Europe has had their own Passat for a couple of years now, the all-new version, and that's different than this Chinese version. It gets different looks. And ours in the States will probably be a little bit shorter. China likes those long back seats and more luxurious interiors, which is why you see the pillows on the rear headrests and stuff. We would not get that stuff here in the States. But as far as the front end and the back end styling and stuff, that's most likely very close to what you'll see here in the States and fits with the new styling. It looks like a larger version of the new Passat or the new Jetta, which rolled out that new styling and will continue on to the Passat Passat, and others. So yeah, I'm not sure when we're going to finally get a new Jetta, but we saw a couple of weeks ago that the current Passat is getting stripped down to, I think, like only 1 or 2 trim levels for 2019. Very, very simple. So I'm guessing this will be an early 2020 model year vehicle here in the States, but we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, interesting to hear all that. But that's it for all the news this week, guys. So let me know your thoughts and everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.